Have you ever really stopped to think about your beliefs? Not just what you believe, but what they do. It's like they're the invisible architecture of our reality. They're the blueprints, the support beams, the entire structure that shapes how we experience life. And most of the time, we don't even notice they're there. So in this explainer, we're going to explore this architecture together and see how we can go from just living inside this house to becoming its conscious architect.
So here's our roadmap. First, we'll get a handle on our invisible scripts. Then we'll look at how those scripts get built in the first place. After that, we'll dig into how to uncover your own personal blueprints, learn a really practical framework for making intentional changes, and finally, we'll talk about what it means to move from living on autopilot to living in true alignment. All right, let's start with the big why. Why even bother digging into all this? Well, it's absolutely crucial because most of us are operating from a script we never consciously wrote. And this whole process is about making that shift, moving away from a life of autopilot and reactivity and into one of awareness and real responsibility. So I want you to just sit with this for a second. Seriously, when you make a choice, whether it's big or small, what's really behind the wheel? Is it you, the conscious, present you? Or is it maybe an old program just running in the background? The source material has a great term for this, our old story. It's this narrative that got built from our past experiences, from things people told us, from conclusions we drew when we were kids. And this story becomes so familiar, so ingrained that it just runs on autopilot. It shapes our reactions, our relationships, our idea of what's even possible for us, all without our direct permission. So how did this architecture get built in the first place? It really comes down to two main psychological forces, one that builds the structure and another that defends it like a fortress. Okay, so these two forces, they work as a team. On one side, you have conditioning. Think of it as the builder. From the time we're little, our environment is rewarding some behaviors and punishing others, and our brain creates these super efficient shortcuts. So if you were praised for being quiet, boom, you might build a belief that says being quiet is good and safe. Then, on the other side, you've got confirmation bias. This is the building's security guard. It stands at the door to your mind, and it's actively looking for any piece of evidence that proves your existing beliefs are right while turning away anything that might contradict them. And the power of this conditioning is just astounding. I mean, get this. Research shows that a staggering 45% of our daily behavior is habitual. It's unconscious. That means almost half of everything you do every single day isn't driven by a conscious choice, but by these deep-seated scripts just running on autopilot. And this quote, wow, it just perfectly captures the engine of confirmation bias, doesn't it? Our minds have this powerful, evolved drive to be right, not necessarily to be accurate. It's about winning the argument, even if it's just an argument with ourselves. And that's what keeps us locked into our old stories. We just keep finding more and more evidence to prove they're true, whether they're actually helping us or not. Okay, so if we're running on these automatic scripts, how in the world do we even begin to see them? This is where we shift from theory into practice. It's all about developing the self-awareness we need for what we call discernment, that ability to see a situation clearly without the filter of our old stories getting in the way. The sources give us three really practical tools for this. First, just listen to your self-talk. Pay attention to those I am or I always statements. They're huge clues. Second, notice when you have a disproportionate emotional reaction. You know, when a small thing triggers a huge response, that's often a sign that a deeper belief just got poked. And third, identify the repeating patterns in your life. The same conflict, the same relationship issue over and over, that's often an external mirror of an internal blueprint. So once we've uncovered some of these limiting blueprints, what do we actually do? Now we get to the how. This is a concrete, repeatable framework you can use to intentionally rebuild the beliefs that just aren't serving you anymore. I absolutely love this metaphor because it makes the whole process so tangible. Just picture any belief you hold, like, say, I'm not good with money, as a tabletop. That tabletop is held up by legs, and every leg is a piece of evidence, a memory, something someone once said, a past mistake. The key is you don't argue with the tabletop itself. To make the whole thing collapse, you just have to go in and investigate and kick out the legs that are holding it up. And here's the thing that's so often true. A powerful, life-shaping belief like I suck at math isn't standing on 100 solid pillars of evidence. Not at all. It's usually propped up by just a few wobbly legs from way back when.
Getting an answer wrong in class once, a throwaway comment from a parent, a couple of bad tests. We then take this emotional superglue and attach it to those moments, making them feel way more solid and significant than they ever really were.
So this becomes a repeatable micro practice for developing what we call your internal authority, your ability to be the final author of your own beliefs. First, you just name the limiting belief. Get it out in the open. Second, you choose a new empowering one to replace it. Third, you get really honest about what emotional payoff you might be getting from the old belief. Fourth, you go back to each one of those table legs, that old evidence, and you question it. And finally, you intentionally start looking for new evidence to build up and support your new belief.
And this is the goal. You construct a new, empowering belief, like, I am capable of learning and improving at math. And you build it on a really solid foundation. You intentionally find and add as many new legs of evidence as you can. Every time you solve a small problem, or you manage your budget well, you add another leg, making this new structure so much stronger than the old wobbly one ever was.
Okay, let's bring all these threads together. We've seen how we can go from just noticing our autopilot scripts to intentionally rebuilding our internal architecture. This whole process, this is the practice of choosing alignment. This path right here, it really summarizes our entire journey, doesn't it? It's that fundamental shift from being unconsciously driven by our past to consciously choosing our response in the present. This is the very heart of taking responsibility over reactivity.
And ultimately, this is so much more than just a mental exercise. It's the very practice of what we call upright living, of aligning our actions with our deepest values. It's how we build genuine internal authority and become the true source of our own beliefs. And when we do that, we create a real space for becoming, the room we need to grow into the person we consciously choose to be. So I'll leave you with this one final thought. Think of it as a gentle invitation to begin this work right now. You don't have to overhaul your entire belief system overnight. Just ask yourself, what is one single belief, just one tabletop, that you're willing to walk up to and just gently question today?